Hey everyone, it's Time Spiraled. Welcome back to some more MSEM. We've got the finals of this GP for this month, so it's going to be a big one. We're going to do a quick flashover. You've seen these decks if you've been following the format, so shouldn't be too many things that are new. We've got Pipsqueak over here on Blue-Red Phoenixes, and Gateways is on Sultai Heart Attack. So these are two decks that we've had up on the channel, at least this month. They've been doing fantastic. Of course, they're in the finals. But between the two decks, the Phoenix is sort of the boogeyman so far this Grand Prix, so it's been performing very, very well. So we're just going to start off here, mousing over some of our classics. We've got Mina here on turn 1. Mina is fantastic in the fact that you cast the first spell that's an enchantment, instant, or sorcery with mana value 1. You can get one of these each turn for free, which means if you've got an instant, which we don't have currently, but interestingly enough, I think we could have gotten a free cast here on Mina Jeweled Minnow, but I don't think that would have done anything. So something just to keep in mind. So the Phoenix deck is pretty simple, and I'm going to keep the graveyard open here. I've made that mistake before. We're going to fill up the yard. We're going to go find our Phoenixes. We're going to get Unceasing Flames, and we're just going to accrue insanely raw value. Cards like Data Recovery here are able to copy up our spells, and because you cast copies, you can easily get to the third spell that you need to pull Myoga Firebirds out of the graveyard and start chipping in for 3 damage a turn. So over here on Heart Attack's deck, on Gateways' Heart Attack deck, we've got some early removal. We've got cards like Exunt, cards like Pithwilt. We've got some counterspell in the form of Portal Fracture and some bigger sweepers in the form of Biohazard, as well as some lands here. But we're looking to go into some of our bigger cards once the early board is controlled. I'm assuming... What are we cracking here? That was a Grim Bastion. I'm assuming this is going to be a Pithwilt here. Pithwilt is really interesting in that it destroys non-land permanents if they have mana value less than or equal to the color of spells you've cast this turn. And it by itself, Pithwilt, is a 3-color card. So you can hit up to mana value 3. And if you've cast anything else with blue or red, you can go up to 4 or 5. So the Phoenix is back in the graveyard. That was not a permanent way of getting rid of it. Pip over here, playing out some Wheat from Chaff, a really fantastic card here. Draw 2, discard 2, and investigate getting the clue is just so good. As is Against the Waves, which mills you a bunch of cards. I think currently has a base of 2 mil. Will draw you a card and then conjure 3 copies of itself into your graveyard. And you know what? Cards in your yard is exactly what you want here. In Pip's hand, as I said, we've also got Unceasing Flames, which can do something very similar to Against the Waves, but instead it's damage. So the first one is 2, then 3, then 4, and of course you're conjuring additional copies into your deck. Zerat is pretty huge. It costs 1 less for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard, and well, if you look at this graveyard, we've already got the full suite, so Zerat can already come down for 2 mana and start creating 2/2 blue elemental illusion creatures. Creative Salvages here and Unquenched Greeds sort of pick up the rest of this hand. Plenty of ways of digging for better cards and putting the ones that you want in the graveyard. Gateways pulled a Beyond All Horizons. It's a really nice card. It costs 3. You get any land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So in this case, you could go and get your Heart of Zadina that you need for the Heart Attack sort of combo. And with Coalesce, it's also a card that you can cast from the graveyard, which the Heart of Zadina, being a card that allows you to generate a lot of mana, can help you then cast the back half. So Gateways is thinking a little bit, which means that we have some time to talk a little bit about Phoenixes. So Phoenix is the kind of deck that was really interesting because it's seen play in the past, and some people had written it off. It hadn't seen a lot of play, and then like right before the Grand Prix fired off, people built a list and refined it a little bit, and the deck's just been performing egregiously well, essentially usurping what we thought was going to be the green elemental circle massacre here in the Grand Prix. And while those decks still did quite well, some of them made it to the top X, I believe, they ultimately did not make it to the finals. So yeah, Phoenix is doing great. It's got some unbelievably absurd ways of filling up the yard with cards like Against the Waves. Data Recovery is phenomenal in this deck and just does so much for getting that double and that triple cast. The Phoenix is, of course, doing the same work that they always have, but now it's even easier to get them out on as early as turn 2. We've had some high roll games where 2 Myoga Firebirds end up in the yard off of for example, a turn 1 Unquenched Greed, and then the following turn we cast 1 spell and then we Data Recovery it, which means 3 spells were cast. There's 2 Phoenixes on the board already, and wow, that's just, pretty rough stuff to do. It looks like we're doing a quick judge call here. Either it's going to be a question about how something works. I'm not quite sure. Maybe we've missed something here while I was monologuing here about the benefits of playing Phoenix. It was a creative salvage. Oh, is it that we didn't discard a card first? Spirit Script from the hand into the graveyard, yeah. That was the Unquenched Greed. Drew. These 2 went to the yard. Nebula into play from their hand. Yep, we paid the 2 life for the blue-red. Tapped the Nebula, played Creative Salvage. Looks like we did not discard a card, a non-land card for Creative Salvage. I'm assuming that's it. Let's check real quick on the Discord channel. I'm guessing that was, or maybe not. Oh, it's a question that's got to be asked in private messages. So, okay, well, while that's happening, as I said, we're going to keep talking a little bit about these decks and the kind of stuff that they have access to, because putting it out there, it's already been sort of discussed on the Discord channel, so there's no problem with me mentioning it here. You can expect the Phoenix deck to have some changes. The things that we've been particularly looking at is the power of some of these cards that we have in the format. All these 1 mana, essentially either draw 2s and discards, because the fact that you want both halves of this, you want to have better cards in hand and you want to have worse cards in the yard. We have a lot of them. Gift of the Phoenix, we've got Unquenched Greed, Wheat from Chaff, so there's a big density. And one of the strongest ones actually is Against the Waves, because you don't really care about the draw discard if you're bidding 2, 3, 4, and then upwards amount of cards, right? After that, we've looked at some cards like Data Recovery, which just do, absolute, of course, as soon as I mouse over it. Data Recovery does so much for so little. Just a 1 mana that can free cast cards that cost 1 or 2 is just like really good. And then of course, cards like Mina, cards like Plaxalotl Piari that are in hand. I know some people might say, hey, we want you to hit the Phoenix itself. I don't think Phoenix is going to get a hit. The Phoenix itself is essentially just an Arclight. So fantastic card. It plays great. I think the issue is not the card itself. It's more the speed at which we're filling the yard with Mioga Firebirds, obviously. Like turn 1, turn 2, there's an ease at doing so. And then the ease at hitting the 3 cast off of, anywhere from 1 to 2 cards. So a thing about Phoenix is that's been hard to deal with in a certain sense, though obviously it depends, is it has multiple angles of attack. You can go creature base with Mioga Firebird, you can build up a really big Unceasing Flames, and using a card like Plaxalotl Piari, deal absurd amounts of damage to your opponent's face. And then you've got Zerat, which can slowly overwhelm the board when it comes out early and just keep creating 2/2 blue elementals. So needing to have answers for a 7-cost planeswalker, a 3-cost creature that will continuously keep coming back, creatures here on the board that do a lot, 3 toughness, right, is relevant. A sorcery that grows, of course, a lot of it hits the yard. So one of the ways that most people have been dealing with the Phoenix deck is by prioritizing graveyard removal. So we've been seeing a lot of Enopraxia's Endeavor in black decks. What I can do is while the players finish that, I can just show you what that card looks like. Here it is. It's a really phenomenal and flexible removal spell that has a -2/-2 mode. It's got a recursion mode, and it's also got the exile target player's graveyard mode. So it's rarely a dead draw. It's pretty solid. So we've been seeing a lot of that. We've been seeing Shikai's Readouts, which are, a format staple at this point. It's a land with just discard it, exile up to 2 cards from graveyards. So it's a Fairy Macabre land. So, all right, looks like the judges are still talking. All right, I'm able to see, but we'll see what the actual error seems to be in just a moment. Sometimes it's a good thing that we have judges on call. Pipsqueak being one of them. We've also got Windy. It's really nice that players have stepped in and stepped up essentially to help out the format in that sense, because it's hard being a judge for a format that doesn't exist, and there's like some rule interactions and stuff like that that just, you know, aren't necessarily obvious. So okay, so let's see, rules interaction that's so weird even it's a policy question. Okay, here we go. Okay. Earlier this turn, I cast a spell tapping a nebula for blue, red. It is your choice. Did I cast it for blue or for red? Oh, okay. So the reason this is relevant is for Plaxalal Piari, because you have to have cast spells with mana payments of exactly blue and exactly red this turn. And because of that, I believe you should be defining which color was spent. So I don't, well, in this case, it does actually matter, because if we say red, we know the only other card that we have here in the hand is Unceasing Flames. So red and red. Okay. So there we go. We cast it for red. And yeah, that's the finals. So, you know, the expectations are that it's easier to get another blue off of it. So a tricky choice. All right. Super. So that was the red cast. So to get the blue cast, oh, but it spells. It also works with Mina. So if you want to just throw out Mina here, you can also get a free Plaxalal Piari. It's kind of good that it does that, honestly. For a long time, players were like, it's not so great anymore. Now that it's legendary, it's all right. Just the fact that you get it for free is actually kind of nuts, not gonna lie. So, all right. So we're firing off the Unceasing Flames, it looks like it. And because we already have, I believe, one in the yard, and then Spirit Script. Yeah, so anyway, I'll mouse over Spirit Script so you can read it. It's whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it's in your graveyard, it can become a copy of it until end of turn. So it ups the number. But we went and fetched out a Corpse Bed using our instant speed Flooded Depths here. So we're actually going to exile the Spirit Script out of the graveyard and the Miyoga. So Unceasing Flames will only deal 3 because there is another copy in the yard. So, but that's a big difference than 4 and a Phoenix. So, Corpse Bed, again, there's been a lot of cards seeing play that hit the graveyard, has been another great one. Unlike Shikai's Readout, which is not easily fetched at instant speed. I mean, you can with Beyond All Horizons, but that puts into play not really what you want to do. So really, there's no cards that are bringing it to hand. Corpse Bed is really nice to have either as a 1 or a 2 of. The fact that it enters tap is not always great, but it's it's better in your deck, kind of like as a fast pull. And the fact that it exiles up to 2 target cards is big instead of just the 1. So you can get quite a good deal off of that fetch. All right, so Gateways has some options here. We're facing down, a Clue. There's a lot in the yard, but not a lot that's scary. The fact that there's a Phoenix and a Script have been exiled is quite relevant. Yes, there are 2 Unceasing Flames, so future copies of it will be scary, as will, future copies of, like, Against the Waves. Drawing into Opalescent Palace here. Again, we've got, like, so many instants and sorceries here. Zerat is probably going to be what's coming down here. Yep. Now the question is, so Portal Fracture actually doesn't save us here, and I say us as in, Gateways. The fact that, you force your opponent to pay 2, they will. I would assume, even though, it kind of means that you're not doing anything else, but this is such a relevant card. It is a nasty card, yes. When cards like Biohazard hit mana value X or less, the fact that Portal Fracture doesn't work with the mana value 2 or less. So we're going to let that Zerat resolve. We're going to keep those cards for something else. Like, that would have been good here against, like, Amina, but a Zerat, not so much. Keeping our mana open, we have the 2 that were available for the Clue. We can also flash an Amina if we need to. Oh, there's an oh wait. Oh, I forgot that rule. Not going to repeat the whole word. A ruling was apparently messed up miserably bad. I wonder what ruling that was. Is it... I don't know. Well, there's Pithwild. Like I said, Pithwild also does not deal well with Zerat. The fact that it's mana value 7, but you're casting it for 2, means a lot of these mana-based removal, even if it's mana value 2, mana value 3, just can't hit a 7-cost Planeswalker. It's really good. There's a reason why people have been calling it Zerktide instead of Murktide. You know, it does a decent Murktide impression. There's been a lot of thought into Zerat only costing less rather than actually having to like delve it out. So your graveyard always stays full. Oh my gosh, we've drawn into another one on top of it. This is going to be really interesting to see where things go. So we're going to start chipping in here. Pithwild goes for the little token, keeping the damage low. Zerat does have another mode besides just +1. There's also -3 where it returns up to one other target non-land permanent to their own hand, and you get to draw a card. That used to be a -2, so you could do it twice. Now you do it once. It's hard to get the double lineup unless it's been around for a few turns, but yeah, Zerat doing really well. All right, so we're on the second main phase here. We've got a Heist Headquarters as a land. We've got Plaxalotl, as we said. We've got a Mina, and we've got a Zerat. So these cards aren't currently popping anything off by themselves. Zerat will just be able to keep generating value, and it'll be very tough. All right, Gateway's not sure if they're messing things up or not, but so we went actually for the -3 with no target just to draw a card. So we drew into Spirit Script. Not necessarily the best card that you want, but, you know, draw 2, discard. So maybe you pick up 2 more cards that you need, or, you know, you can dump a Phoenix. We'll see. Okay. We're passing. It's instant speed. You can do it pretty much whenever. All right. We're cracking the Grim Bastion here, getting our 5th land. It's a Shifting Glade. We've got 2 basics, so these are not hemorrhaging our life totals. Prying Inquiry here is quite good, I think. You'll be able to hit the Zerat that's in hand, you know, which I assume is probably your target, but I could be wrong. We'll see. So we're going with... Okay, so it was a tap Flooded Depths. We paid 3. We're going for Beyond All Horizons, so we're going to get any land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. I would imagine it's Heart. There it is. This is one of our 2 feature cards beyond Myoga Firebird on the cover of the thumbnail here. So the fact that it's 3 and tap, choose a color for each differently named land you control. You add 1 mana of that color, and well, yeah, this is kind of like a Highlander mana base here. At end step, we're bringing out Mina. So the interesting thing about Portal Fracture is the Wanderlust mode turns it into a hard counter. So even though 2 mana would be available, the fact that you can hard counter things that cost 1 or 2 with it is relevant. So Spirit Script went and drew 2. We're discarding the Rousing Path, and now there's another script back in the yard. So we're up to essentially 3 Unceasing, or 2 Against the Waves right now, though here we are, drawing into the other copies. Every time you cast one of these, you just increase the density of them in the decks, and that always just, you know, increases the chance that you pull another one, which then increases the chance you pull another one, and so on and so forth. A lot of cool stuff you can do with that. Pip, of course, playing the original 101 arts for both of these cards, which are quite pretty. I kind of like the fact that our, well, okay, Against the Waves is firing off here. They're both from the same set, so, you know. So we're not copying script here, and the reason for that is if script becomes Against the Waves, then you don't have it for Unceasing Flames. So Waves is just going to mill 3, 1 for this one, 1 for the one in the yard, and then we draw a card. Looks like we drew into a Gift of the Phoenix. We put 3 more copies of Against the Waves, and now we're at 2 actual copies in the graveyard. You probably want your Spirit Script to be a Unceasing Flames here, because now that we're at 4 in the yard, this is a 6 mana to the face, and Gateways is at 9, so it's quite good. So Gift of the Phoenix, discarding a card. We pitched the extra Zerat here, okay. It's just maybe me. I'm the kind of person who like values having like extra copies of some of these like nuts cards, but I guess, you know, it's just not doing enough here. We're going for the kill. All right. Let's see what happens next. Okay. Against the waves again. Now we're at 4 mil. We're kind of losing the graveyard here as a planeswalker pops up. Fortunately, there's no way of making that smaller, but I do believe it's still relevant to keep it open. Hopefully nothing's being covered too much. So big mills all around. We have a Firebird in the yard. We're up to 1, 2, 3, 4 regular copies of Unceasing, 5th with Spirit Script. So that's 7 damage from Unceasing Flames. Yeah, the fact that we're milling so many of them is just actually pretty decent. I mean, yeah, of course, drawing one would make a pretty decent difference here. But, all right, there's the Unceasing Flames. Going for script. All right, and that's going to be a Portal Fracture, hard countering the Unceasing Flames. I believe we had 1 blue and 1 red played. Interesting. Would figure. Okay, there it is. All right. I was like, wow, I was looking at the wrong one. I'm like, yeah, you definitely want to get a Piari at least in play. All right. So Heart is here, which means obviously we have big mana. Now, how much mana do we have exactly? We're getting a land here. So I'm assuming it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unique. So you can pay 3, 4. So you can go 7, 8, 9, 10. X can be 7 here, which is, you know, will hit everything that's currently on the board. Wow. Yeah, 10 mana. Is this what we're seeing here? Biohazard X equals 7. All right, cool. Glad I did the math on this one. X7 is you know, big enough to catch everything here. And at the beginning of each end step, opponents lose life equal to the number of cards that they've drawn this turn, plus the number of spells they cast this turn. So it's going to start bleeding out Pip. But Pip is not doing too bad, honestly. You're at 12, your opponent's at 9. This Firebird comes back, opponent's at 6. Any Unceasing Flames that you draw is going to be absolutely disgusting here. And Gateways is F6, which means that if against the waves just mills more, draws more, you can crack a Heist Headquarters to go get a clue. We have ways of digging for this Unceasing Flames. We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with this script, so 8. The next Unceasing Flames is 8 damage. So we're milling 5, 3 copies of it in the yard. All right. More copies of Against the Waves now in the yard. Pip is down to 24 cards. More Against the Waves are being shuffled in. Unfortunately, I apologize. I'm not tracking exactly how many copies of Unceasing Flames are in the deck versus how many Against the Waves. Just know that the number is like probably decent and the chances of pulling one are higher. Drawing a land, not necessarily what we want here. Is this a... Okay, this is just a hard cast Plaxolotl. That makes sense, honestly. You draw an Unceasing Flames, and the double cast here is going to be enough to finish off your opponent. Though, honestly, we're almost there. So, end step, they lose life on the number of cards they've drawn plus number of spells. So that's a drain for 4. At least you don't gain the life. That would be... is it 5? Okay, well. What do we draw here? Okay. Piari against, card for turn against. Well, against is a draw, right? Uh, hold up. Chiari against, card for turn against. But wouldn't against give extra damage? Let me just check real quick. Or was there just one against? If there was just one against, that's where the extra card is. I apologize. It's one card, one cast, two casts, two cards. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, we're hard casting a Beyond All Horizons. It's going to come in as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, an 8/8, and 9. Actually, we're getting another land and putting onto the battlefield tapped. So I wonder what we're going to go for. Just checking real quick the lands that we have available. Monument of Queens, maybe? Hey, there it is. Yeah, Monument of Queens, once you have enough mana, I mean, that's going to start getting flying, first strike, lifelink, and your life no longer being at 8 is going to be quite relevant. Unfortunately, this Prying Inquiry here only finds a land, so therefore has no targets, which is, never a horrible reason to hold up, a spare land if you don't need it, though I think in this case it's just the fact that we played the Palace on the previous turn. We do get a clue, but that did cost us 1 life, which might not seem irrelevant, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 were exact lethal off of a single copy of Unceasing Flames, I believe. Of course, not that it would matter too much, the fact that Piari here would have copied it if we didn't find a way to get rid of it. Yeah, it's oof. This is a tight spot. I'm assuming this is cracking the Heist headquarters for a clue. You really just need 1 Unceasing Flame. So it's either going to be this or a data recovery, but does it work? Whenever you cast yes. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 1, if you cast it for 2, okay, let's see. I'm actually not. This is actually a rule thing that I'm not 100% sure. Let's see if the players figure it out. Would it copy? I mean, because you're exiling it from the yard. The question is, I mean, if it copies data recovery, you just get the other Unceasing Flames. If it doesn't copy data recovery, it copies Unceasing Flames, and you're winning either way. The question is, we're faking holding up a counterspell here, right? So X is 3. Targeting Unceasing Flames. I'm pretty sure the mana value of an X. I'm actually not like 100% sure, but I love how that's like the first thing you type. A spell in the stack has a mana value equal to the total amount of mana. Okay. Here we go. We're cracking a clue. Okay, good. I'm glad that it was how I thought, right? So 1 extra mana, and that would have actually been... Wow. That was it? Just... yes. Were we playing around Cursory Glance here? Oh, yeah, okay, there's 2 copies of Cursory Glance. Yes, that's why you play around it. Yeah, all right, cool. Players are going to go to sideboards. You know what that means? That means we're going to our sideboard as well here. So we've looked at these decks in the past. Cards like Seal the Tomb do a great job of like just absolutely getting rid of a bunch of stuff that your opponent's playing in the yard. Celestial Banishment works on activated or triggered abilities, but I don't know if that's... Is that going to work? I guess it could work on a Phoenix, but I mean, Seal the Tomb is probably what we're going to see. There's also Trauma Spike, which can just, get it directly. So, okay, good. Players in the chat are actually confirming what I thought, that data recovery does not count as 1 mana because of the X. Very neat. So yeah, Trauma Spike, Seal. I don't think we're going for Stand Unassailable. It is good life. Maybe we do. Just feels that your opponent can actually high roll pretty high, but maybe that's what we need. We'll see. And then meanwhile on Pip's side, We've got Shikai's Readout if we need to hit some of the Coalesce cards. I'm pretty sure we're doing something better than that. Spell Pierce for the non-creature stuff. Fiery Erasure. Your opponent's not really fielding out creatures, so that's not really what you want here. So either some Exile or mostly Spell Pierces, I would imagine. Your deck's already going on top, right? It almost feels like you don't need too much. Our players are drawing opening hands. Let's see if we can spot anything from the sideboards. So there we go. I'm seeing Trauma Spike here. We're seeing the Mastery of the Veil finisher. Okay, looks like we're keeping hands. Good. So we've got Trauma Spike, we've got Mastery of the Veil, we've got a Portal Fracture, we have a Pith Wilt, and a Cosmic Sinkhole. And then this island means that we have a Cosmic Sinkhole early, which is nice. Over on Pipsqueak's turn, Rousing Path comes in untapped. We have cards like Unceasing Flames. In this case here, it's a Wheat from Chaff, which we know is going to bin 2 Phoenixes. Is actually the only way that we're binning those Phoenixes currently. Boy, do we Cosmic Sinkhole that. That would make a big difference. No, that's not true. Gift of the Phoenixes discard a card as a cost, so we can definitely guarantee that at least one of the Phoenixes can go to the yard. Gateways is feeling spicy, so looks like we're sinkholing the Wheat from Chaff, so not letting the draw discard and not letting the investigate happen. We're going up here on our second land, which means that we have a Portal Fracture available for whatever else comes in. Okay, so I figured Spell Pierce coming in makes sense. We're playing a lot of Instants and Sorceries on Gateway's turn, and sometimes we're going down to exact mana, especially with Heart. Nebula here for blue-red. And instead we're going to pass it and clean it up. Not a third land. Not exactly what we wanted, but we have the still the Pithwilt is available if we. Nope, Pithwilt is not currently available. Green, white, and black. I mean, we can have the black, but we'll be missing the green or the white. We do have a Portal Fracture though. Up on third land, which means that whatever we cost for 1 will make it through. And anyway, there's a Spell Pierce here, so we're discarding 1 of the Phoenix to Gift of the Phoenix. Very on point flavor-wise. Drawing 2 cards, taking 2 damage. Right? Hold up. Did we not take the damage? Okay, there we go. Are we taking the other 2? Okay, I'm going to assume that's from the first Gift of the Phoenix, So I think we're going for Portal Fracture here, which is going to get, I believe, Spell Pierced. Nomad's Township coming out. Seem to have a loading trouble here, unfortunately. Yeah, it just adds black or green and enters tap. You lose a life. Let's control 2 or more basic lands. So Portal Fracture. Oh, hold on. I'm just going to check. I don't know why we... All right. All right. Good. We're on track. 2 life is particularly relevant sometimes. So we just want to make sure that everything's going off. Anyway, back at it again. Let's pull open the graveyard here. This is the 3rd spell. Phoenix comes in. 3 copies of Unceasing Flames. And chipping in for another 3. Yeah. So there we go. That was the 3. That was the 2. We went 16. Okay, good. Yeah, going steps ahead. It's all right. We scrolled up. We made sure that things are happening here. All right. Oh, sorry about that noise, but stuck on two. Not where we want to be. Especially in the finals. You want, especially holding trauma spikes and hearts and pith wilts and so it's up to Pip to capitalize on this game. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard, right? There's already 5 in the yard. That means Zerat comes out for 2. You've got the bird. You've got even a counter spell here. You're just hard. Yeah, we're just hard casting Firebirds now. I love it. Um, we know that one Cosmic Sinkhole is not getting around that. If we're just chipping in, and we've got lethal on board for next turn, we're holding up a Spell Pierce here with 1 mana up. Found the 3rd land, but the 2 birds are already on the field, and it's a shock fetch, which means you're paying 2 life to get it. Oh my gosh, this just doesn't feel great. I'm not gonna lie, this looks really grim. Even with getting a Pith Wilt, you're being hit for 3, and anything out of your opponent is gutting you. Trauma Spikes are essentially dead in hand here with Pip holding up that Spell Pierce. Just declaring the attacks. Is that enough? We're cracking the Shock Fetch. We're at least going to try and wait it out one more turn. Maybe we've sighted in those stand unassailables and that'll save us. At least now we no longer lose life to our Nomad's Township. So we're Pith Wilting here and Spell Pierce seals. Oh my gosh. All right. And there's the Cosmic Mana. Interesting. This is it, right? Like okay, I don't know what was gonna happen here. Yeah, this looked like it was it. Um, wow. Yep, just showing off the hands here. We're gonna let the victory roll play out. My gosh, that was actually a pretty decently long match. It felt like it went really fast. That game one obviously had a lot more going on. Um, yeah, Trauma Spike just too slow here. Seal the Tomb is yeah. I probably also would have fallen into that trap as well. Trauma Spike, sounds good in theory, but yeah, I guess it's just straight up the 3 mana is just like a million mana, right? Our players are kind of doing their last little chat here. I'll let you all get a little glimpse of this. But yeah, whew, what a way to end. Not surprising to see Phoenix take it home. But honestly, Gateways played great. It was just a rough hand. You had the 2 lands. You hoped you would draw a 3rd earlier, just didn't. So yeah, congrats to Pipsqueak for taking home the prize here for this Grand Prix. Love seeing this last little last moments of the match here. Memorialized in this video. Thank you so much for following us this month as we kind of get the channel up and running. Hopefully in the month of October, we can just keep that going. We're going to be doing more league videos. We're going to be doing more Grand Prix videos. And yeah, we've just got, new thumbnails, new look. We're working on the channel all the time. So thanks again. Really means a lot to us that you're checking out our format. It means a lot to everybody who's on council, who works on these things, the players who spend a lot of time on it. And if it's something that you're interested in, come on down. It's pretty easy to join in. League's always open. Grand Prix are every month, and we'll just be happy to have you. So we'll let our players finish up their chat, but for us, I think that's going to be a wrap here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.